What is going on, everybody? What is going on? Happy Sunday to y'all, man. Happy Sunday. Happy Easter. Hope everyone had an amazing Easter. Hope everybody spent time with family. Um, and man, just hope y'all had a good day, man. Ate good. Spent quality time with the ones you love. That's what it's all about, man. Anyways, kind of really shifting the gear, obviously. Big things have been happening this past week. The Braves are back in action. um they did start their season off in Philadelphia off on a right note, getting a series win, dominating the Phillies in game one and game two today. They did fall short. You're not going to win them all in a 162 game season. But that's reality of it. But man, I really wanted to sweep the Phillies to open up this 2024 season. Would have been some poetic justice, but ultimately, man, what really matters is taking care of business first. Those folks in October when it really matters in the postseason. Anyways, shifting gear to what this stream is about, the Atlanta Falcons. Obviously, the NFL draft is now, I want to say, less than 4 weeks away. I want to say we are now like a little less than 4 weeks, 3.5 weeks away from the start of the NFL draft. And you know what that means, man? Mock draft season is in full swing. And this is really going to be what we do here the next few weeks. Really going on and just taking a look at some of the possibilities of where our Atlanta Falcons could go in this draft. So yeah, man, it really is something we have to think about, as obviously we inch closer to April 25th, which I believe is the start of the NFL draft, is the first round of the draft. And obviously there's a lot of possibilities of where maybe the Falcons could go in this draft cycle. What could be some possible options? What do the Falcons obviously do with that number 8 pick? Since that really obviously sets the tone of the draft. And I think there's a real consensus that, this has to be a defensive heavy draft after especially the first few seasons. Terry Fontenot has really, shown to build his defense in free agency and then, tend to lean more into the offensive side of the ball and the draft, especially with some of those higher picks. But you would obviously anticipate with, the change of circumstance and the change of climate, obviously Raheem Morris is a defensive coach, whereas the last guy we had, he liked to, at least, you can assume he liked to get, these offensive guys in here. Whether he would use them or not, we would obviously see. But yeah, man, no, Raheem is an offensive guy too. Raheem knows offense, but it really feels like ultimately from the position the Falcons are in, and obviously Raheem being more of a defensive guy, that this draft is probably set up to be kind of a defensive heavy draft from the Falcons. At least that's what some can assume. Obviously, the thing about the draft, man, is you really don't know where these teams are going to go. You don't understand what the directions might be. You don't know where these teams might go. So ultimately, man, that's really just what it breaks down to. But without further ado, man, I do want to go ahead and get into the actual mock draft. I'll probably run a few mock drafts. I plan on doing this every Sunday leading into draft season. So obviously Now, next weekend, I'm going to go ahead and say, since next weekend is WrestleMania weekend, I will be watching WrestleMania this time next Sunday, and I'll be glued into that. I'm probably going to do it Saturday at probably Saturday afternoon. I don't know what time, but I'll probably, do it Saturday for next week. But typically every Sunday, man. So putting us a few weeks away from the draft, we still got time, we're going to have a few editions of these, and probably right before the draft, like a day or two before, we'll have one final one as well. But without further ado, man, this is what we're going to be using. I know a lot of people, what mock draft machine should you use? Man, about me with these mock drafts, I like one that, actually is going to, give a realistic feel. Because some of these mock draft machines, they're just all over the place. The AI is absolutely corrupted. And obviously, the PFF one, I'm not paying monthly for something I'm only going to be using for, one season of the year. So the Pro Football Network one, this is the one that I'm going to be using. So obviously go with the Falcons. 7 rounds. Let's see. And normal. And we're going to go ahead and start off the draft. And man, it's firing off. I'm thinking about maybe pausing. Firing off. All right. Let's take a look at Let's take a look at what we got here. Caleb Williams goes number 1. I think that's kind of the consistency. Drake May goes number 2. Malik Neighbors goes number 3. So definitely some, unexpected stuff here happening. Roma Dunze goes number 4. Marvin Harrison Jr. goes number 5. Olu Fashanu goes number 6 to the Raiders. They trade up. And then Talise Fuega goes number 7 to the Tennessee Titans. So we still got 2 top quarterbacks here, Jane Daniels and J.J. McCarthy, on the board at number 8 for the Falcons. And maybe that is something, we consider. Maybe not too much, but maybe that is something we consider. Let's see. The Saints are offering us the 14th and the 45th pick for the 8th and the 187th pick. It's not necessarily a bad offer. They're a division rival, so obviously not taking that. Pittsburgh, offering up 20, 51, and 84, and the Jets offering up 10, 72, and a 2025 second. Now, these 2 offers, they really do intrigue me, kind of. I'm not going to lie when I say these offers really do intrigue me. Obviously, Pittsburgh, they're offering up their first, obviously, their second, and their third. So that really then puts us in a position where we have our first, then we have 2 seconds and 2 thirds. The Jets, are offering up their first or third and next year's second. Now, if you really want to look at it, these are, 2 pretty similar offers. The only thing is, the Jets' second would be for next year. You don't know where their position would be. Pittsburgh is picking later is the thing. And to me personally, obviously I would appreciate to have those picks, but also Pittsburgh picking later. It really, that idea, I mean, it's a good offer and it's one that should be considered, but compared to this offer the Jets have given us, I'm definitely leaning towards, the New York offer. Looking at what we do have on the board, though, Jane Daniels and J.J. McCarthy. Now, somehow, and I don't see this being the scenario, but crazy things happen on draft night. Let's say this is the scenario. Somehow, you would maybe think the Falcons give it some thought, because man, when you look at a Jane Daniels, it's a very intriguing prospect, but obviously a rookie quarterback, there can still, be a little bit of, they can still be polished a little bit. Obviously they could use some of that development. You don't know how long Kirk Cousins is going to be here. We assume for at least 2 years. I would probably say about 3 is, probably about what they're expecting. JJ McCarthy, that could be an option for development. But I really don't think I'm going quarterback here. I'm looking at the defense side of the ball. That's what I'm looking at here. And when I look at Dallas Turner, obviously that's been a guy I've been really advocating for, and I would love to see. Terry and Arnold, a corner. The Falcons need help at that corner spot, man. We really, lack the depth there, in my opinion. And you don't know what the situation with AJ Terrell is, and look, I would love to keep AJ. I don't know if he's going to stay. I would like to see him stay, but as you really more and more look into it, how much are they really going to be willing to pay him? The other names that, have been popping up, especially the one, I've been seeing, Latu. Now, I've heard everyone talk about this guy's potential. And listen, there's no denying, and I've, seen a little bit of him. He has potential, and there's no denying it. But the neck injury, I would definitely say, is a little bit of a red flag. And also, the last time the Falcons drafted an edge rusher out of UCLA, I still have PTSD from. So I have an own personal prejudice against that. Now, let me go ahead and say, if it is Latu, I will be on board with it, But I have a prejudice against that pick right now because of how someone who went on draft night and embarrassed the name of his grandmother ended up turning out for us. That's where that prejudice stems from. And then we got Jared Verse. Jared Verse, to me, it feels like a lot of people are saying he's the safest bet. Like, where the certain floor is with Jared Verse. But it also feels like that when you're talking about him, then, the production at his best, it could still be really good. But could it be at the level of a Dallas or a Latu? So that's one of those like safe bet guys. And another thing too about Jared Verse is, to me, it really feels like he does not fit this defense. It feels like Dallas Turner, outside linebacker. Hassan Reddick just got traded to the New York Jets. The Falcons have failed to pick up that true outside linebacker, edge rusher. It feels like the Falcons are going to go that early in the draft. Whether it's the first round or not, I don't know. But I would guarantee the first 2 rounds, the Falcons are going to get an edge rusher. Looking at this offer from Pittsburgh, as I said, it's respectable. But I'm going to have to go with the offer the Jets have made. I'm going to go with that offer, so I will trade back here. I'm going to pick up another third, and I'm going to pick up a second from next year. Because, listen, next year, you don't know what the quarterback class is going to look like. And that second, it could help us move up if we need to and, get the future franchise quarterback, to develop next year under Kirk. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take that. So the Jets take Joe Alt, and the Bears at 9 take Brock Bowers. So let's see. The Patriots are offering their 34th pick, their 2025 first and second. And meanwhile, the Bucs, they're just offering all sorts of stuff. They're a division rival. So, man, definitely I'm going to go ahead and say that to me, I'm going to go with Dallas Turner here. I think that's where I go. JJ McCarthy goes 11 to the Vikings. Terry and Arnold goes to New Orleans, goes down to the Swamp. Marius Smith, Latu goes to Detroit. Nate Wiggins goes to the Chargers. Chop goes to Tampa. Let's see. Bo Nix goes to New England. Now, so that's interesting. They pick Malik Neighbors and they trade back up to get Bo Nix. All right, here we are. Back here. Let's see. We got an offer from the Saints. Oh, damn. This offer from Seattle. I don't know about that one. I really don't. I feel like, that first round pick intrigues me. But I definitely feel like I want to stay with this pick for. God damn, why isn't anybody taking Jane Daniels here? It's just come on. Come on. Let me go ahead and take a look at this. So what I really feel like I want to look at the corners here. Now, Max Melton. I'm gonna go ahead and say this is the type of guy I can absolutely see Raheem Morris picking. He definitely feels like a guy Raheem would want to work with. He fits that mold that Raheem likes to work with. And he's a guy that really, from the start of this process, I've looked at and I've said, I think you have to definitely consider that they're no doubt going to have on their draft board. They are definitely looking at this guy, and I think they're really very much intrigued by him. And another thing y'all got to think about these corners, man, is ultimately these corners, that we have Raheem, Jimmy Lake, Terry played safety at Tulane, Jerry Gray. And then we obviously got our other DB back coaches. So really, regardless of who they bring in, I think this is why that DB room, while it worries me, it doesn't worry me too much. And another thing, too, is maybe you do look at trading AJ and you are kind of comfortable with that, is you look at all those guys and their ability to develop DBs, and then, I mean, we got 3 defensive back specialists on this coaching staff. And a guy who literally played DB as our general manager. So these guys are going to have a good eye for talent, I think, regardless. And are going to definitely be looking for, what they like and what they see as their type of mold. However, you then go over to the offensive side of the ball. And Ladd McConkey, man, I've said it, I'm saying this as an Alabama fan. Ladd McConkey reminds me a lot of Cooper Kupp, as he does a lot of other people. And we know during their time in LA, and I don't even really see Ladd lasting until 43, but as I have said, there's a lot of times where you see, players you expect to be surefire first round picks. They're waiting until the second, even third round, to have their name called. So, man, when you look at a Ladd, man, that intrigues me. And I don't know how many times I'm going to be able, to have the opportunity to draft Ladd. So, man, I'm intrigued by this. I'm not going to lie. I'm intrigued by the prospect of Ladd McConkey. I really am. And I think if he is really there at 43, which I wouldn't say is likely, but you never know, because ultimately we don't know where these teams rank these guys. We don't know, where they have their board set at. But one thing I can say is that when looking at a Ladd McConkey, man, that dude is a dog at wide receiver. I mean, yeah, there's simply to put, there is absolutely, and he was really, if you think about it, a lot of the time he was at Georgia, really overshadowed by Brock Bowers and was overshadowed by Darnell Washington too when he was there. But man, Ladd has been a dog. And Georgia fans will tell you that he is really he is something, and a lot of times when I hear Georgia fans trying to push an agenda, I say, hold on now, but there's no denying how great of a talent Brock Bowers is, and there's no denying that if Ladd McConkey is there in the second round, you got to consider the man. But the Falcons, they really don't draft Georgia players high. They draft Georgia players, but they don't draft them high. They wait till like the 5th, 6th, 7th round to really draft those guys. So when looking at Ladd, obviously he fits that role. But when you look at this wide receiver room, it's also kind of where do they feel Ladd fits in? Now, granted, we don't know how they really feel about Rondell Moore in the slot. I mean, you're paying Mooney all that money. Mooney's going to be out there starting no matter what. But you really don't know how they feel about Rondell Moore in the slot. I mean, they traded Desmond Ridder for him. I think he's good value. I think, they're going to get into training camp and preseason, and they're really going to see how he is before they officially nail him down into that slot position. And we know that Zach Robinson, they really value that position, and they're going to want competition there. But continuing to look at it, man, we haven't really even looked at some of the big guys we have on this board. Tavondre Sweat, guy from Texas, you obviously, I think, take a look at here. He is a big guy. He will come in, and he will be your nose tackle. He's that big guy. He can eat up space. Max Melton, obviously, there intrigues me. But ultimately, when looking at it, I think you got to think of this from a perspective of, I think at this point, they value a corner higher than they value a receiver. I think they feel they could get a wide receiver in the 4th or the 5th round, like the Rams did last year at Puka Nacua, and he turned into something. Whereas I feel like, while they definitely trust their ability in developing corners, they also they want to get one high, and then maybe you go back in later in the draft, and then you look again and you evaluate, maybe do you add another one for depth. So I'm going to go ahead and take Max Melton here, man, at 43. It might be a little high, but man, players are drafted high, they're drafted low. Ladd McConkey goes to Cincinnati. Oh, you give Joe Burrow Ladd McConkey, that's going to be an issue. You go ahead and say that's going to be an issue. Let's see, man. Is anyone going to take fucking Jane Daniels? Yeah, the Broncos, man. He ain't lasting until the 3rd round. Jane Daniels, I think Jane Daniels will be the number 2 pick. One trade offer from Cincinnati. I'll just kind of leave it be there. Taking a look at these wide receivers, as I say, I think they probably think they can get a wide receiver in the 4th or 5th round. I don't think they're going to be looking, for one high. Now, if a Ladd McConkey comes up, or maybe someone drops, then yeah, I think you kind of reevaluate, if it's just a prospect too good to pass up on. But all in all, you obviously like that depth there, and I think they're going to go for that. Another thing to keep in mind too, these undrafted free agents, they're going to be looking, to just pick up those diamonds in the rough, pick up those guys that have been, really overlooked. That's what Terry did with a guy like Nate Landman. Found him as a diamond in the rough. Look at him now, or look at him last year. And I think he should continue to have a role in this defense. Let's see, man. Ooh, man, this is good. I mean, you look at a Braden Fisk. Go ahead and say this. Man, Braden Fisk, I definitely feel like you want to talk about someone you're looking for, maybe a potential Grady replacement. I think a Braden Fisk could definitely be on that draft board as a guy who does it. A lot of athleticism. Obviously, he could definitely, some of those rougher spots, he could, like you see, using that technique, he can get work with on by, a Grady Jarrett. And maybe if you bring a Calais Campbell back, Calais Campbell might come back. That's another thing we got to keep in mind. Chris Jenkins, another guy, really to look at here. Taking a look at him, man, obviously you see, there's potential with him too. I really feel like he's the type of guy you look at to where also you put him under a Grady Jarrett's wing, and, you have him do, really learn from Grady those first few years. Dwayne Carter, another one. See, all these guys, you're looking for that, post Grady Jarrett, type guy. You're really looking for that. So when taking a look at Dwayne Carter, obviously it's really the same thing. A lot of these guys, they have obviously they have athleticism. That's one of the things going for them. But to me, though, I really feel like, looking at it, the thing with Braden Fisk, I would definitely like the athleticism. I feel like, when you're looking at the role you want him to play, you have to get a big man. You have to get a big man there. And to me, honestly, when I look at what they might be looking at, I think it could be either a Chris Jenkins or a Dwayne Carter. And I'm gonna go ahead and say I think it's Chris Jenkins here. I think that is the pick. Now taking a look at, we're right back on the clock because that was our first pick we had. We traded with the Jets, so we got 2 third-round picks. And Green Bay's putting a little offer. As I say, man, let's not go too crazy on the trades. I think this is maybe finally when you can look at that offensive side of the football and you can really see where maybe some of it is going to fall. And one of the things I think you got to look at is the offensive tackle. Now, I think you definitely look at a Joe Walt, you look at Fashanu, you look at guys like that, as especially Joe Walt, as if we have an opportunity to take them, we consider it. But we're not really thinking too much about that. We're really thinking more so, obviously, going defensive heavy in this draft, but still, you want to have depth and you want to have guys that can be competitive, man. This is really the last year of Caleb McGarry's deal. Obviously, I know that, he has 2 years left. You can easily get out of that deal after this year. So I think looking at, that offensive tackle depth, this is where you go ahead and you look at a guy, that can potentially, number one, maybe be depth, for obviously you want depth on the O-line. And number two, maybe when looking at a Caleb McGarry, you go ahead and you look into potentially having to replace him as well. So when looking at this man, Roger Rosengarten, he's a guy from Washington. Now, keep in mind, Washington, I think, is going to be very big here because of the fact that Jimmy Lake, obviously just a few years ago, was the head coach over at Washington. So I really feel like that the connection is going to be there, even if, he's on the offensive side of the ball. That, and this is a guy, man, he's played all 4 years at Washington. And even though he was on the offensive side of the ball, still Jimmy Lake is going to know what this guy is like, is going to know, what they like in this guy when they're really looking at it. So to me, this is a guy I definitely feel like you should put in contention for. And because, listen, connections are big. Having these connections, knowing these players, it's a big thing. So ultimately, man, this is where I think we go. I think we go ahead, we take Roger Rosengarten here with the 74th pick, add some depth to O-line. Yeah, it can also be really a spot where you have a potential Caleb McGarry replacement. We have another 3rd-round pick. This is the one from Jacksonville that we got in the Calvin Ridley trade. So this would leave us with 3 third-round picks. I know I only said 2. I wasn't even really thinking about that 3rd one. Let's see here, man. We got obviously taking a look at it. Is this maybe, where you look, maybe at a wide receiver in the 3rd round? When taking a look at, maybe a Johnny Wilson. The thing with Johnny Wilson is this, to me, it doesn't feel like he's necessarily a third round type guy. It feels like more so he is more of a fifth, sixth round guy, and he could definitely still be in contention for it, but to be picked in those rounds by Atlanta. But it definitely to me feels like that the Falcons in this draft are probably looking for more of, that slot guy. Now when looking at it, we've added a lot of speed this offseason. That is something to keep in mind. So maybe we do look to, get that bully type guy, just in case Drake London does go down, so you can still have that type style receiver in your offense. But obviously praying nothing happens to Drake. Drake is still out there because, man, I think Drake's in store for a big year. But Malik Washington, this is a guy that I really feel like you put a competition with Rondale Moore for that slot position. Obviously, it's very big. They're going to want competition there. I think this is where I go with this pick. I'm going to say we pick Malik Washington, wide receiver out of Virginia. And then we wait as we go into the fourth round. We're entering day 3 of this NFL draft. Braden Fisk finally off the board, goes to the Denver Broncos. As I say, I think Braden Fisk is probably going to go off the board pretty early in day 2 looking at it, especially with how these O-linemen are valued. All right, back on the board here. So far we have taken Dallas Turner at number 10. We traded back with the Jets. We picked up another third, and we picked up a second next year. We took Max Melton at 43. We took Chris Jenkins at 72. We took Roger Rosengarten at 74, and we take Malik Washington, wide receiver out of Virginia, 79. So really that's 5 picks in the top 80 we ended up with. Really looking at this, and going into this day 3, to me, I think what the plan is you continue to add depth. I think you go back to the DB room. You see, obviously looking at some of these names, still some solid names here. When taking a look at it, also you take a look at the safeties available, because, man, I'm gonna go ahead and say I really don't know about. Man, and I could obviously, I definitely think the Falcons had an interest in Jordan Fuller this offseason. Obviously, we could not go ahead and get him. So at the end of the day, still taking a look at it. Maybe the Falcons feel comfortable with rolling into 2024 with obviously Jesse Bates starting at free safety, but DeMarco Helms being your strong safety. And I definitely think how we saw DeMarco come on as the season went on, we saw there was some promise there. But you love competition. That's what they're looking for, man. Terry loves to have that competition, loves to stack the roster. And I really feel like some of these rooms, that's what they're going to look to do, especially the DB room. We're going to use a lot of DBs, man. So you got to keep that in consideration when looking at this. So I ultimately think, looking at some of the names we have here, we have Jaden Hicks, a safety out of Washington State, as you see. He is very much you can use him as a blitzer. And he really is an athlete. He's going to be, and obviously there's a downside to that being aggressive, but at the same time, as I say, I really feel like they can fix that. And I feel confident in that. I think they're gonna be able to, some of those spots with DBs, they're gonna be able to fix it with coverage. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna take Jaden Hicks here out of Washington State as this draft goes on. I want to say we have 2 picks left after this, so yeah, but so far, man, I like where we've gone with this draft, but obviously I'm the one drafting, so you do have to keep that in mind. I'm definitely the one drafting, so yeah, man. See, that's it for the 4th round. Going into the 5th round. So Jordan Travis goes to Washington. Luke, man, the Luke McCaffrey, Christian's younger brother, goes to Carolina. I honestly hope that don't happen. Man, taking a look at it, I mean, we've already. I feel like we're good at the interior offensive line. Ultimately, to me, I would have liked to see them bring in competition for Dahlman, but they feel confident in Dahlman. I also feel like getting a Kirk Cousins, and they're going to be able to work out that snapping issue with Dahlman. Cousins is also going to be able to adjust. So obviously it's never bad to add depth, but still, I feel like with this draft, you're really looking at obviously defensive heavy. So those picks on offense, you're gonna want to make meaningful. So ultimately, I really don't think that's where you go. We've already taken a wide receiver. And obviously, I like some of the names. Tight end. Now, tight end, I'm not going to lie when I say I could see us drafting a tight end because we have Kyle Pitts, we have John Fitzpatrick, and here's one thing. This is not Arthur Smith. I'll be shocked if, obviously we have Pitts, we have the long snapper, and that's 2. I'd be shocked if we carry, I want to say with Arthur Smith last year, we were carrying like about maybe as much as counting the long snapper, like maybe 6 tight ends on the roster. I don't see us carrying any more than 4 this year. Heck, we might not carry more than 3. So I really don't know. I think this comes down to ultimately, if you do draft a tight end, someone to compete with John Fitzpatrick. But maybe they feel like Fitzpatrick, man, there's potential there, and he can come into his own. Now, man, let me go ahead and say this: Jonah Ellis, right here. I don't see him being here in the 5th round. Crazier things have happened, and as I say, this draft, when we're really looking at it, we don't know. We don't know how this is going to turn out. There's plenty of times, when the draft comes around and you're looking at it on day 3 and you're like, I had that guy going in the, early 3rd round. I had him maybe being a 2nd round pick. How's he still here in round 5, round 6? That happens sometimes. To me personally, this is Kane Ellis' younger brother, by the way, Jonah Ellis. You want to get the Ellis boys together. Obviously, Caden, he is a primary blitzer, and man, Jonah is just violent off of the edge. Kane is more that inside linebacker coming crashing. Jonah will just come off the edge. Man, I really feel like that Jonah Ellis, this dude is, you look at it, 6'2", 248, coming off that edge. I think that's where you go. You definitely want to beef up, those outside linebackers. That's something they're going to want to do. Taking a look at, I think this is our last pick coming up, pick 187. I do want to say this is our last pick coming up. All right. Taking a look at where we are, man. Round 6, pick 187. And to me, this really feels like at this point, obviously the 6th round, it's still, you want to think of it as important. You're really looking for those depth guys to me. When I really do look at it, I think this is where you look at potential competition for a John Fitzpatrick. And there's 2 guys I'm looking at. Dallin Hawker out of Colorado State and Tip Redmond out of Illinois. Now, personally looking at it, to me, Tip Redmond, absolutely, you're basically that's a guy you bring in as a 6th offensive line. Whereas I think with a Dallin Hawker, he can catch the ball, and also he can be a pretty solid blocker. When taking a look at it, obviously, to me, this would be the type of pick where you're really looking at a guy that is a that will be competing with John Fitzpatrick for that for that 2nd spot. And obviously, some of his inconsistencies is why he is such a sought after prospect. But ultimately, man, I do think you're looking for depth at tight end. You want competition. I'm gonna go ahead and pick that guy. I'm gonna go ahead pick him. And this final pick, man, I really don't know where I want to go with it, to be honest. Let's see. We could add some more depth at cornerback. Even though, man, I still think the Falcons are going to make a free agency move. I still think an Achilles Weatherspoon's available. I think you make a move for him. I'm going to go ahead and say I am tempted to go ahead and take Joe Milton, so that because Taylor Heinicke took a pay cut to have one of those guys be the 2nd quarterback, or maybe even you have Joe Milton be your number 3. To me, Joe Milton, obviously he's got a big can of an arm. He really can't do much with it after that. But you do put him with a Zach Robinson. You're going to have him with a Kirk Cousins. So to me, it really feels like you're looking for. As I say, I don't see us drafting a quarterback high. That doesn't mean we won't draft one at all. I think, the 6th round range is probably about, maybe where we do draft a quarterback and pick one up, just so that we can have, that emergency option now, with the new rule the NFL has, established. And also, man, you don't know I would anticipate Kirk is playing week 1. I know I've heard all the conversation. Oh, Kirk might not play week 1. I think Kirk is playing week 1, but just in case anything obviously does happen, you have Taylor, and having a Joe Milton, man, it's just it's more common now to have 3 quarterbacks on your roster. I'm just gonna go ahead and pick Joe Milton here. I really feel like, if we do pick a quarterback this draft, it really is, to be that kind of that long-term backup. Whereas I think next draft is where you then go into prioritizing. Your potential succession plan to Kirk Cousins. So let me see, man. Let me see. So yeah, but that will do it. Just waiting for the draft to finish out here after after the laptop goes ahead and finishes its brain freeze, I will go ahead and say that man, I'm gonna have some content rolling out, man. Definitely, even after the draft and as um we still get settled into the summertime. Obviously, waiting for football. We do have baseball, man. We have baseball. The Braves are back, so definitely going to look to have some Braves content on here. Get some Braves fans on. Which man, it ain't hard to find a Braves fan in the South. So yeah, man. Obviously, what really matters is October. I think we've learned that over the past 2 years, but it's still fun to talk about baseball, in those summer months and really look at, your potential prospects you have heading down the pipeline. So yeah, I'm probably going to do another mock draft after this before I head out for the night. As I say, next week I'll probably do it Saturday. So and then after that, I'll continue to do it Sunday. Still definitely going to do a few of these to really, kind of get a feel of what it could look like on let me see. All right. I didn't even see it was draft wasn't even resumed. All right, let's go ahead and finish this out. I was wondering what was happening. Let's go ahead and resume this draft, finish it out. Then we'll go ahead and do another one. I don't know if I'm going to do any trades in this one. I guess we'll just have to wait and see how it all turns out. But next one, I probably won't do any trades in, just so that, kind of get a look at. Even though, man, one thing you gotta say, and it's not necessarily with that first pick, that second pick, Terry loves to move it around. Like his first year, he traded back. The past 2 years, he's found a guy that he's liked. In 22 with Arnold Ebiketie, 23 with Matthew Bergeron. He's traded up for him. So, yeah, definitely like that. And then that could be a possibility again this year because, as I say, that, those first few picks in that second round, I would definitely think there's some intriguing prospects there to work with. All right, let's go ahead and then let's recap this one. So we had to trade with the Jets. We picked up the 10th pick and the 72 pick in a 2025 second round pick for next year. And we gave them the number 8 pick. I don't know if they'd make that trade in real life because only moving up 2 spots. But at the same time, man, it's a first round pick. And especially if they want to protect Aaron Rodgers, that's which they picked up, some O-line help this offseason. So I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting to see what the Jets do with that pick themselves. But picked Alster at number 10, picked Max Melton at 43. Chris Jenkins at 72. Roger Rosengarten at 74. Malik Washington, 79. Jane Hicks, 109. Jonah Ellis, Kane Ellis's brother, at 143. Dallin Hawker, from Colorado State at 187. And we picked Joe Milton from Tennessee at 197. So let's go ahead, take a look at this, obviously, one last time. Let's go ahead and let's get back let's go ahead and do another one, shall we? Before we close this out here. Obviously, it's Sunday night, man. Easter night. Obviously, a lot of people I know probably have stuff to do tomorrow. Got to go to work, man. So, obviously, not going to stay on here too much longer. So, yeah. So let's go ahead and get back into it, man. So let's see. Caleb Williams goes number 1. Drake May goes number 2. Jane Daniels goes number 3. Malik Neighbors 4. Marvin Harrison 5. All right, that's a little wrench in our plans, which I don't even know if I was going to take Dallas Turner anyway, but still. All right, so Caleb Williams went number 1. Drake May went number 2. Jane Daniels went number 3 to New England. Malik Neighbors goes number 4 to LSU, from LSU to Arizona. Personally, to me, man, I've been seeing that, and listen, Malik Neighbors is a very explosive receiver that I would love to have, but to me, Marvin Harrison, I mean, it's kind of a bloodline that you can't deny that almost. So to me, when taking a look at that, obviously everyone, kind of, saying maybe Malik Neighbors could be the first receiver off the board. It's still kind of hard for me to see that. I think Marvin Harrison will be the first guy off the board. But if you get Marvin Harrison to Justin Herbert, man, that's gonna be something if that happens. Now, Dallas Turner number 6 to the Giants. I don't think a lot of people are expecting this. But as I say, you never know. And that would be a wrench that I think absolutely fucks up all draft plans. And Joe Alt number 7 to the Tennessee Titans. So here at number 8, that definitely messes up our plans, maybe. But also, as I say, you know what? I know I said I wasn't going to take a look at the offers. But after that, I almost kind of had to. I'm not going to lie. I almost kind of had to take a look at the offers. So, taking a look at what the Cowboys offered. Or maybe not as I look at it. Let me see, man. Damn, the Raiders are offering up their 13th pick and their 2020, their first round pick next year straight up for our 8th pick and 109 in the 4th round. So, yeah, this is I gotta accept this. I do. I gotta accept this pick. I mean, it's kind of a damn it. You can tell I kind of had a little bit of a plan there. With that pick almost. So taking a look at what did happen, the Raiders trade up and got an offensive tackle. To me, if the Raiders trade up, it's to get a quarterback. But hey, you don't know. The Colts trade up to number 9 and pick Rome Odunze. Brock Bowers goes to the Giants. J.J. McCarthy goes to Michigan, and Terrion Arnold goes to the Broncos. So that still leaves us with Latu. Leaves us with Jared Verse. Now, I will go ahead and say that even though I feel like, Latu personally to me I'm not really intrigued by him. I do think I could definitely see the Falcons seeing him as a fit, and he is a West Coast type guy that, obviously Raheem Morris was, down in UCLA. Raheem Morris was, so the connection you can maybe even say is there. So to me personally, even though, I personally, would like to see Dallas Turner, maybe even Jared Verse, I'm going to go ahead and say bite the bullet, because even though I might not like the prospect personally, you got to keep your mind open to all these guys. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to go ahead and say Latu. Going to go ahead, pick him here. Leave it at that. Let's see. Bear with me. Dang. All right, I'm gonna have to go back and see all that happen. All right, so obviously there's some notable ones. Chop Robinson went to the Bears, which we did take a lot to, so I really don't. Michael Penix went to the Raiders. Bo Nix goes to Denver, and that leaves us here. So, man, I do want to look at what receivers are there, because I don't. Lamb McConkey is right there. I can't pass up on Lamb McConkey twice. And Carolina's right behind us. Can't let Carolina get their hands on Lamb McConkey. Can't pass up on the dude twice. He's an absolute dog. I think he definitely would have a role here for the future. It's very hard to pass up on a guy like that. Max Melton goes to the 49ers. Let's see. All right, let's go ahead. Let's ignore that. Definitely, I think, no doubt, this is a defensive pick. Let's see. Let's see some of the top defensive guys here. Taking a look at, just some of the guys we have. D tackles we have. We have 2 picks, so keep that in mind. We have 2 second-round picks. To me, I still feel like you address, that spot of, succession for Grady Jarrett. And I also think, I took Chris Jenkins in the last one. I think Dwayne Carter is a guy you look at and you say he could also definitely fit that mold. So now the Falcons here once again at pick 79, back on the clock. I really don't think would pick a tight end here. Take a look at some of the offensive tackles. I really, I think I know where I want to go here. And that would be, letting this thing load up. Josh Newton, corner from TCU. I think he's another one when you really talk about, guy that can fit the mold, of what Raheem and company are looking for. I think that can be a Josh Newton. So going to go ahead, pick him up here. We did trade away 109, so we don't have that pick anymore. because we traded to the Raiders in the trade where obviously we got the 13th pick and we got their first round pick next year. So we don't pick again until the 5th round. Let's see, all right. This thing back rolling. My bad for the technical difficulties, and we're definitely gonna have them sorted out here. Hopefully next time as we do this, definitely gonna want to sort these things out. All right, here we go. Getting back to this thing. All right, man, my bad. I might definitely want to finish this one out, but obviously it's moving very much at its pace. Not work at all. I know I didn't set this thing at slow either. I know I set it at normal. Um, Let me see. finish this mock draft. All right, please don't let it restart. It is, man. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Obviously, we did one-on-one to get through the second one, but I'm definitely gonna have to get all this sorted out before next time. All right, well, I don't think it's gonna work. Obviously, there were obviously some technical difficulties tonight. My apologies about that. But still, man, had pretty good, mock draft, man. We go ahead and actually maybe see, how this thing. Go ahead and give this thing one more stab. See if, regardless, I'm going to have to get these technical difficulties resolved here. All right, so yeah, I don't think that's gonna work tonight. Definitely gonna have it resolved for next time, man. Definitely apologize, but hey, everyone who watches on replay, everyone who did tune in, awesomeness, I see you in there. Y'all know what to do, man. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the post notification bell. Obviously, it's been a long day. It's been a real long day. Definitely gonna plan on doing this as we continue to lead up into the draft, man. Obvious, and also got some other stuff, maybe even look into some of these prospects deeper as well. But hey, it's an exciting time of year. Baseball's back, draft season, man. Those who really are invested, in basketball like that, man, the NBA playoffs start soon. So, it definitely, fun time to be a sports fan. But anyways, man, with that being said, I will see you all in the next one.